right. So Josh, as a luthier, like, when did you start getting into making guitars?
I started when I was 19. So when I was 15 was when I actually started playing guitar. And it became apparent that I probably wouldn't be making my living as a musician, but I still wanted to do something musical, and I like to work with my hands. So someone kind of introduced me to the idea that people actually can make guitars on their own.
That's always a magical moment as a creative, right? The moment you realize that it's a job.
Yeah. You don't really think think about it, right? Guitars are made in factories by machines or whatever. But,
they all say Gibson on them.
or Martin or something. So that was really neat when I kind of realized that, and hey, maybe this could be a career. So I went and took a course when I was 19, kind of a crash course in guitar building. And
how long is a crash course?
A crash course in guitar building is like a month.
Oh, okay.
So
that is still a crash course.
Yeah.
So do you walk out of that with a guitar?
I did, actually. Yeah, the course I took was with Sergey de Jong, and he was one of the apprentices of Jean Larrivée of the Larrivée Guitar Company, which was one of the biggest guitar companies.
Larrivé's are awesome.
Yeah, to come out of Canada. And so it was a 1 month crash course where there was 4 or 5 students, and we actually went and lived there, and over the course of those 4 to 5 weeks built a guitar. So yeah, actually came home with a finished instrument.
Crazy. Do you still have that guitar?
I do. It's not the best guitar in the world, but I do have it, and I'll never get rid of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like a painter's first painting.
Exactly.
It's hard to part with something that means so much, right?
So when you're building, do you have multiple projects on the go at the same time?
I do, and the reason for that is with something like guitar making, there's a lot of drying time and kind of downtime. So I'll work on something, clamp it up, and then it's got to sit overnight. So while it's drying, I'll just move on to the next one. And so usually 2 or 3 on the go at any one time.
Wow. Okay. And how long would it take to see a guitar from beginning to end, completion?
Usually 6 weeks to 2 months,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. It can depend on the complexity of the guitar, the type of features it has, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For me, I've got some other projects on the go besides just the guitars, so it's usually more of a 3-month process. So
okay.
Yeah, anywhere from 2 to 3 months.
And like as far as like the inlays go and like the designs, do you design your own instruments, or do you have like templates that you follow? Or
yeah, well, if someone comes to me looking to order a custom guitar, we usually start with the shape of the instrument. So I offer 9 shapes right now, right from a small 3/4 size guitar up to like a full
that's awesome.
17-inch jumbo.
Okay.
Something like a Gibson J200. And so you start with the shape, and then basically the sky's the limit from there. So you can select different woods for the back and the sides and the top, and neck dimensions, inlays, like you mentioned, any of that kind of stuff can be customized to the client's preference.
Okay.
So as a player, if you were to build your dream guitar, what kind walk us through, like, what kind of wood would you start with? Like, if you were gonna make your perfect guitar.
It would be a mahogany cedar guitar, like my mahogany tree.
You have one of these here, do
I
you?
do actually have one here. Now this wouldn't be necessarily my dream guitar, but it is one that I really like.
Okay. Here, let's mix.
Give you a nice soft surface. I want to lay you down on a bed of curtains. A little Bon Jovi for you.
Okay, so what we have here is my Grand Auditorium model, and it's kind of a medium-sized guitar. So it's not too small, not too big. It tends to be very comfortable for most people to play. And it's also, the size is a very versatile size instrument. So it's good if you're strumming or if you like to do some finger picking. It's great for that as well. I'm just going to flip this over, see if you can get the back in there. Okay, so the back and the sides of the guitar are mahogany, as well as the neck.
Okay.
The binding, which is the trim that goes around the edge of the guitar, is curly maple.
Okay.
And then this guitar has a cedar top, and usually the top of the guitar is spruce or cedar. It's going to be a soft wood, because the softwoods are lighter and they vibrate better, so you generally get a better sound out of a softwood top.
So cedar versus spruce, the cedar would have like sort of a warmer quality?
It does have a warmer quality. The cedar is a softer wood, and that softness to the wood gives it some more overtones, gives it the warmth you're talking about. So cedar tops tend to be particularly well suited to fingerstyle players,
Right.
and that kind of thing. Spruce is great if you want a guitar that's really going to project. Spruce has a lot of note definition, so if you're a strummer or a flat picker, Spruce is a great choice for
Okay,
that.
so anything sort of anybody that's got really rhythmic kind of like driving style of playing, that's often what I do, either that or finger picking. But if you're doing like a lot of that
a lot
heavy
of
strumming,
the heavy strumming stuff, a Spruce top's generally going to be more what you want.
I've got a couple of questions for you here. The first one, I'll start with the most recent, but where is your studio? There's people in the comments asking.
I'm from Goderich, Ontario, so I have a shop there in Goderich. It's on East Street, 130 East Street, Goderich, Ontario, and people are welcome to come by and look at what I do. I just ask that they make an appointment ahead of time because I'm not always in there during regular business hours.
And I'll double check. Bob, you've got, it's up on the screen right now, houseguitars.com.
Yes.
Perfect. I should never doubt Bob. He's always got it on the screen as soon as I ask. And a couple of other questions from the audience. Any tips for amateur builders? Like how should someone approach getting started?
If you want to get started as a guitar maker, taking a course is really an ideal way to do it if you can learn in person with an instructor. But over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of online resources. YouTube's even a great free resource. There's a lot of people posting how-to videos. Some people offering online courses, mainly pre-recorded video stuff, and lots of good books as well. I'd also suggest that you don't just dive into it as like, it's the same with
You don't just go out and buy some lumber?
Well, it's the same as any artist, right? When you're getting started, you probably need to have a day job or some other part-time job.
Right.
And I'm about 15 years into this now. I am doing it full-time, but for a lot of those early years, I did it either part-time or in my spare time as I was building a reputation and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And you already covered that one, but what is the craziest request you've had for a guitar?
I guess a pretty crazy request. The craziest one I've actually followed through on was from a Scottish musician named Brian McNeil, a folk musician, and he had me build him a double neck Bouzouki. Now a Bouzouki, not a bazooka.
It's a Greek.
A Bouzouki is an instrument used in a lot of Celtic folk style music. It's generally got 4 strings tuned in pairs, and it can be tuned like a mandolin, or a lot of the Scottish and English guys tend to tune it a variety of other different ways depending on their style of music. But he had me build this double neck Bouzouki that had 20 strings combined between the 2 necks, and it was just a really wild thing.
That'd be weird. Like, how do you even source parts for that? Like that's crazy.
Well, it was a total original design. I don't think there's another one in the world. So you just get out a piece of paper, you start doing sketches, and then you take those sketches and you have to figure out, okay, how do I actually make this? And that's a tricky thing when you're doing an instrument like that no one's, or in my case, I've never done anything like it. So, how do I build this thing so it still sounds good and yet doesn't explode under the string tension? So that's the craziest one that I've actually followed through on. Most of what I build, though, it tends to be more like this, fairly straightforward, just kind of 6-string acoustic guitars.
We've got more questions coming in here. We've got what someone wants to know. What can someone expect to pay for a custom-built guitar? And I'm assuming a range, but
For my instruments right now, they start around $4,000.
Okay.
And the custom guitar market, if you're coming to someone like myself, typically around $3,000 is probably going to be your starting point for someone that's fairly new into the market, and after that's the sky's the limit. You could spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $40,000 or $50,000.
Wow!
So it's again, it depends on what you want. It depends who's building it and that kind of thing.
It's kind of exciting though, the idea of having a guitar exactly the way you want it.
And the neat thing about getting one custom built is that there's a lot of small details that someone like myself can change and modify without having to charge any extra for. So if you're going to get a factory guitar and say you want, the neck a little wider because you're big hands or something like that, well, they can do that, but they're probably going to charge you extra. Whereas that kind of stuff for me, because the guitars are one of a kind, it's not any more work for me to change some of those things without having to charge any more. So.
Okay.
Now, we've got a couple more here. Let's take a look at the other ones you've got before you've got another one there.
Sure,
right?
I've got one more.
I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the wood that you use too. So well, we can switch them up, but so the back and the sides are usually a hardwood?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, now there's different options for what you can use for the body outside of the top too. Does that really affect the sound of the instrument, what you use for the back and the sides?
It does, and a lot of that has to do with the density of the wood.
Okay.
And so, like you said, it's generally hardwood for the back and sides, but there's a range of wood density there. And mahogany tends to be on the lighter side, and then you've got the rosewoods. A lot of people would be familiar with like an Indian rosewood. That's kind of a common wood. So that's kind of on the harder end of the scale. And yeah, the back and the sides tends to give like a color to the tone, kind of the characteristics. You know, is the guitar going to have more low end than high end, or that kind of thing. So
Okay.
mahogany tends to give a nice balanced sound. A lot of people like the big rosewood dreadnoughts, that they tend to give them a lot of low end, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's probably Tom who's asking me, but there's people who want to hear the guitar. Can we
Just drum it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. The one I've got here now is a bit of a different one, and this is just a prototype I built for myself, more for fun. And so it's a mahogany body shape, a little bit smaller, and this one's actually strung with electric guitar strings with a jazz humbucker pickup in it.
Cool.
That's so cool.
I've been trying to learn to play some jazz guitar myself, and I don't really build electrics at this time, so this was kind of my happy medium where I took an acoustic guitar, put an electric pickup in there, and so this one's got a warmer, more mellower sound, and a lot of that has to do with the way it's set up.
So this is a unique feature here too. A lot of people maybe haven't seen that. But what can you explain what that's for?
Yeah. So when people see that the guitar has this hole in the side of it, the first thing they think of is that some kind of electronics or something is going to go in there.
Yeah.
But this is actually just an extra sound hole, and it's known as a sound port or a side sound port. And the idea is that normally with a guitar, when you're playing it, the sound is going out the front of the instrument.
Yeah.
And so if you actually hear someone else play a guitar, say, you know, if you're sitting out in front of me, it sounds better out in front than it does for the person playing it. And so by putting the port in the side of the guitar, it actually lets the sound come up towards the person playing it and not strictly out the front of the instrument. So the person playing it gets to experience more of the sound that's coming out.
It's kind of like a monitor.
It's kind of like your own personal monitor.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really. This looks heavy. Is it?
It's not too heavy.
No, it's not. And sorry, what did you say was on the top?
Okay, so this one is all mahogany.
This is all mahogany.
Yeah.
But mahogany is normally a harder wood.
It's a
hardwood,
it's a
rather?
hardwood.
Yeah.
But it's one of the lighter hardwoods. So you do see it on some acoustic guitars, Martins. The way my understanding is the way it kind of came into first use was back during the wars, World War II, that kind of thing, when all the spruce had to go into the airplanes. Instrument manufacturers couldn't get the spruce that they had previously, and so a number of them went through a period where they put mahogany on the top as well as the back and sides. And a mahogany top guitar won't have the projection and that of say a spruce guitar, but it's still got a really great sound. And it's a sound that a lot of blues players and ragtime guys, especially guys that play kind of the old style blues, they tend to really like a mahogany top guitar, because back when a lot of that music was being written, it was on kind of those older small body all mahogany guitars. So
That is so cool. I could honestly sit here and talk all day about this, but we should probably move on to get Brian up here. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
One more time before we let you go, where can people find you?
houseguitars.com, and I do have a Facebook page as well. And you can go to my website, and there's more contact information there for anyone who's interested in stopping by.
Perfect.